This is the Bone Collector, Dominic Greeny. You're listening to Wrestling Cheers. Don't turn that dial or I'll choke you out.
Making your way in the world today takes everything you got. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot. Wouldn't you like to get away? Sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came. You want to go where you can see that troubles are all the same. You want to go where everybody knows your name. You want to go where you can see that troubles are all the same. You want to go where everybody knows your name.
And welcome back to Wrestling Cheers, where everybody knows your name, especially when you got our 5 stars. This is Wrestling Cheers. We like to talk about things going on in the Northeast Ohio independent wrestling scene. We preview shows, we review shows, and sometimes we even have interviews along the way. This is an interview episode, and I am your host. I am Heavy Set, and this episode, or this podcast, Wrestling Cheers, we are brought to you by the Trending Topics Network and MidwestTerritory.com. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you're listening to this fine podcast, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Podbean, WrestlingCheers.podbean.com. We have the contact info. Please get a hold of us on any of your social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.com/WrestlingCheers, Twitter.com/WrestlingCheers, and Instagram.com/WrestlingCheers. Email, if you so choose to desire, WrestlingCheers@gmail.com. We have the merch store over at whatamaneuver.net. This, like I said, is an interview episode, and we have Jeremy from I Got Your 5 Stars, and he's already here. How's it going, Jeremy?
Justin, what is up, man?
It seems like, we just talked.
I know. I'm really excited to be on Wrestling Cheers, and that open you did where you weaved in I Got Your 5 Stars, it made me pop, man. Yeah, that was great. I loved it.
Thank you. For those who don't know, Jeremy, like I said, he has his own podcast called I Got Your 5 Stars, and part 1 of this conversation was on his episode, which I'm guessing is going to be last week, correct?
Right.
Okay, because
that would come first.
Yeah, well, because we're recording this now, he hasn't edited anything up whatsoever. So, breaking the fourth wall. So I don't exactly know when it's coming out, but I know when this is coming out. So if everything goes correct, last week's episode, I Got Your 5 Stars. Please check it out, and I gotta give a big shout out. I kind of did it on your show, but I'll do it here too. To Righteous Jesse, and bringing a lot of us together. And like all these episodes last week, I had, Ryan, the struggles from the Spotlight series, and now I got you on, and Jesse's the glue that brings us all together.
The Tennessee Taskmaster, man. Jesse. Yeah, I mean, when you said it last episode when you were on I Got Your 5 Stars, it made me realize, Jesse is the glue, man. Mm-hmm. And Southern Underground Pro is the promotion that's captured all of our imaginations, so it's really kind of cool. But shout out to Jesse, man. We all love you and what you guys are up to down in the South.
Yeah, Southern Underground Pro is just, it's so special. And I think one thing I love about it too, because it's so young, and it's being able to watch it grow. Also experiencing newer names that I've never heard of, but on top of it, names that I do know. People that I've seen in Cleveland go down there and make their name, like, when Dom won the Bone Storm Championship, I thought that was so awesome. And seeing, what he's doing right now with SadConf and all that kind of stuff, it's just, it's a mix and mashup of so many things, and being where it is, it's not too far south. It's not, as far north as Cleveland. It's in this nice little medium ground, and it's a fun organization and ran by great people too.
Yeah, and speaking of Dom, you mentioned him. I thought Dominic Greeny was a fantastic champion. I mean, I was sad to see him lose the belt, actually. But, of course, it made sense where they are now. And I think Brett Eisen, he deserved it. It's his time, But, man, Dom, I just loved him as a champion. his matches with Jeff Cobb and Kurt Stallion. I mean, he was just such a great champ. So, yeah, the side comp is awesome, too. I mean, what a killer tag team, him and Kevin Koo. But I wouldn't want to be standing across the ring from them.
I was really happy when Marco won the title, but I had made a tweet a couple months prior saying I would love to see Brett and Marco. So going back to, that show where Marco won the title,
sure,
you had Brett just like, I want what's mine, and like talking about how he was undefeated, and then Marco won the title, and I was like, oh, are we getting what I think we're getting? Then they announced the match. I'm like, oh shit, that's going to be a great match. The thing that I love too, and I've praised them, I know enough about it to where I knew the ending of the match, and I still love the story that they told. Even if I was there live, I figured it would be, Brett winning in like a couple seconds. I figure kind of, Diesel Bob Backlund, like just a really, really quick match. But instead, it wasn't exactly a 20-minute classic, but there was enough story told to where Marco would not die. Like he wouldn't die easy. I mean, he did lose, but Brett earned it. And then the thing too that I've said a little bit since the Southern Underground Pro Show is that Sup is so good at ending shows. Like, they end it with something that's going to provoke some sort of emotion one way or another. Yeah. Whether it be, Marco winning the title. Whether it be that visual of O'Shea, Brett, and, Kurt Stallion standing over the carnies. And, the thing that I always remember is I have that vision in my head of Brett Eisen just giving everybody the finger. Like, if I could get that turned into a poster, I would. I'd buy it. Because, I don't know, it's that kind of stuff. So even like when I went to this last show, how they ended it, it makes you want more. And those are the best shows. It's not like, all right, championship match, and granted, it was like that with Marco, but there's something. There's something that gets you talking and makes you go, I have to go to the next show. I have to, because it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And then the payoffs for the storylines and the hot angles they're running, I mean, the payoffs are always so badass. I mean, I always say on the podcast that each show, to me, I come across, or watch the newest show. A lot of times I review them right away with Sup anyway. Yeah. And I always find myself saying, that was the most complete show Southern Underground Pro has had. And then I say the same damn thing again the next time. I mean, they're just outdoing every show each time, and there's magic going on there in Nashville. And I talked to Jesse about this. I mean, I'm sure you have too, just that they've been drawing comparisons to ECW and, of course, having that venue, the Basement East. I mean, even you were talking about on I Got Your 5 Stars how when you went there, you could feel it just felt electric. This is the Basement East, and it's amazing that's become a destination point. So Nashville, Music City, they're kicking ass, man.
It's, like I said, just a fun show. And I think you're going to say the same thing when you review this show when it comes up. Probably by the time this comes out, you might have reviewed it already, because it's normally about a 2-week turnaround. And we're in this, like as we're recording, we're in the second week.
Yeah, they get them up quick.
Yeah. So I would suspect you have a review up by the time this airs. And my prediction, it's going to be the same thing, because there was a lot of great matches. There was a lot of great storytelling going on. And even everybody that I know that went, it was just like, okay, what's the best match? And a lot of us just said, it almost has to be Brett and Gage. And it's not a knock towards every other match, because every other match was good too. It's just the thing that I loved about it. And they both complement each other. The thing that I love about Brett and the thing that I love about Nick Gage, when they're in a match, it looks like they're trying to kill their opponent. And seeing them against each other doing the same thing like that, not like they're copying each other, but it looks like they're in a real fight. It's something that you will really tell when you watch just how fucking awesome it is, and how I think, Gage helped really put some stock into Brett Easton. I really hope this is a big year for him, but yeah, that match there's a reason why it was the main event. I think it lived up to everything. It was worth the wait. It was worth the trip for me. And still, every other match was still good too. You started off hot with Mance Warner and Cabana Man Dan versus the production, and there's just so much fun this. I love the whole show, especially too the Fuckets versus Sad Conf, which was sponsored by Wrestling Cheers. And I picked it mainly because Dom's a Cleveland dude. Koo's been on the show, and the Fuckets, I've been watched for a number of years. I'm like, why not do this match? And when the Fuckets walked out, Nasty Russ looked at me and he says, of course you would sponsor this match. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I did, man.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I can't wait to see the show. Dylan Hales, when he was on the show with me, he said for this show, and I talked to him prior, the eve of the show. And he had said
I listened to it on my way home.
Cool. I'm glad you did. I mean, I think he was awesome. Mm-hmm. And he was saying how it was the biggest, advance ticket sales they've had. And they were expecting, a major packed house. And I just said to him, that really makes me happy that I know it's definitely, SUP is almost a promotion that doesn't need to rely on bringing in talent so much. I mean, they've built so many of their own guys that are just phenomenal there. The roster is great. But bringing in a Gage, I don't know any finances or anything. I really wouldn't even want to know that. But I can only imagine that's an expense. It's a flight from Philadelphia. And, of course, you're paying Gage. I don't know what he makes, but it's probably not bad. And that's a leap of faith for them. And it was cool to see it pay off.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to, like I said, to your review on that. We'll see that hopefully soon.
I can't wait to see it, man. You've seen Gage some, right? In AIW, he's there quite often. Yeah.
Yeah. Gage he was one of my favorite moments of 2017 was his return to AIW after being gone for, I think, 2 years. And Tim Donst won the main event of Absolution, and I kind of made it was a half prediction, half this is what I want to see. I wanted to see Donst win, and then I wanted to see Nick Gage come out. Like, I want to see his music hit and just everybody go nuts. And I told people, like, during that match, I'm like, if this match is over and Nick Gage comes out, I'm flipping my shit. So, I think it was Donst pinned Josh Prohibition, 1, 2, 3, and then a couple seconds later, Metallica hits, For Whom the Bell Tolls. I went nuts. I pulled an Ultimate Warrior on the barricade and just shook it like crazy, going nuts because it was Nick Gage's return. I couldn't believe it was fucking happening. It's those moments I absolutely love in professional wrestling. But Gage he's a great dude. He's a dude who, served his time in prison and is more humble than you would know online.
Sure.
He knows not necessarily me by name, but I think he knows my face, and he will give me respect. Like, there's times he's giving me a hug coming out. There's times he'll push me as in you ready to fucking go. And it's just, he's such a good dude. Even when you talk to him, he's so much fun. Something that hasn't been talked about yet is it was between me and Jesse. It's always Sheetz and Wawa. I'm in Sheetz country. I really really like Sheetz. I don't think there's anything on Wawa that I've had that compares. I want to test something out. So on a fairness scale, okay, they both put out the same product, which is better, but I'll still lean towards Sheetz for right now. He is more Wawa.
Oh yeah.
And I looked online, and there was actually people tweeting at one point that Nick Gage was in a Wawa.
Oh wow.
And I had seen Gage after an AIW show at a Sheetz, but literally the Sheetz was right next door to the venue. So I'm like, okay, I can understand. So after the show, for Southern Underground Pro, me, Jesse, and Nick were all around each other. I'm like, Gage, I got a question for you. He's like, I'll see if I can answer it. I'm like, Sheetz or Wawa? He goes, Sheetz all fucking day. And like the look on Jesse's face, like you just told him that Santa wasn't real and all. Like it was just like, motherfucker. And it's something that I've teased him about. I think even after I left, I was like, hey, remember that time that Nick Gage said he liked Sheetz over Wawa? And he's like, I try not to remember that.
That's dope, dude. Yeah, and you probably know Jesse's story about how he went to Sheetz, I guess, and they gave him some fucked up coffee. Mm-hmm. And he's had a sour taste about it ever since then. Yeah. And that sort of happened to me with Wawa. I mean, I'm a Sheetz all day guy too, and I'm in Wawa country. But, dude, I don't think there's a comparison. I really don't. Sheetz has so much more selection. But, whatever. It's debatable, I guess. But Jesse knows that I tease him about it too. But I have the same kind of thing. I went to Wawa and they fucked up a sandwich I ordered or something. And they said, oh, we don't have that. That's why and the guy said, you can either have chicken strips or chicken this. And he was giving me choices of something that I really didn't want. And I kind of looked at him because I wasn't prepared to be asked that kind of question. And he kept repeating it as if I have to really say this slow for this dumb mute. So he said, you can have chicken strips or chicken, whatever he said. And I just eventually said, okay, just give me the money back. And I left. And I don't think I'll ever set foot in a Wawa again. So I can understand, holding. It doesn't make sense that one incident, from a rational mind, doesn't make sense that would make me not want to go to Wawa. But honestly, I mean, I was fringe anyway with them. I really don't care for Wawa. The coffee, I'm not crazy about. The subs, I'm not crazy about. I think Sheetz kills them every day on ready-made things to eat and fresh things you can eat. I look for Sheetz all the time. I'm so excited when I see one on the road. I can't wait to stop there. So,
like, the thing that I always heard about Wawa, even I always heard about Wawa just in general. And I remember when I first stopped, I posted like a picture of me at Wawa, and everybody that I know was like, "You need to try the cookies and cream milk." Okay, the cookies and cream milk is great. A+, I'll give them that. The other two things that I have from my experience of going to Wawa that I really do like, and I'll always give them credit for, is they have a barbecue cheesesteak, which is really good. And the first time I tried that, I was in Philly the day after I had one of the really good cheesesteak places in Philly.
Oh, yeah.
The one by the ECW arena I had.
Tony Luke's.
Yeah, that was it. I always forget the name.
That's the best, bro. That's the best one.
So good. So, like, the next day I had the barbecue one, and I'm like, I love barbecue in general, so I'm like, this is pretty awesome. And then when I went down to WrestleMania, I went to a Wawa, and I went to buy macaroni and cheese, and they offered me like 3 different sizes. And getting mac and cheese at Sheetz, it's one size. That's it. Last time I've had it. It's been a little while. So I was like, oh, Wawa's offering me sizes. I'm like, that's a plus. But to compare which one's better, it's like saying, okay, I go to McDonald's and I get the Big Mac, and I think the Big Mac's better than the Whopper. And I'm like, well, why don't you try the Whopper next to the Quarter Pounder with cheese? Because I mean, that's or just a Quarter Pounder. Like, that's the actual comparison. Like, which of those is better? Yeah. So I always want to like get something at one and then something at the other and figure out which one I like the best. I mean, there's things I do like about Wawa, but I think Sheetz is a lot better. But then in our area, we have a chain, which you might have known a little bit about. I don't know how long you've been out of Buffalo, because I was in Buffalo and they had this chain up there. We have a chain of grocery stores called Giant Eagle, and Giant Eagle has its own gas station, and in the past, I want to say 5 years, they've grown in more of the made-to-order stuff.
Okay.
And my favorite sandwich, and I know a lot of people that I know agree with me, and it's something that we praise, and it's called the Pilgrim. It comes out during Thanksgiving.
Okay.
The bread's made out of stuffing. It has turkey, gravy. You can get cranberries on it, cranberry sauce. I know I'm missing some things. I want to say there's mashed potatoes on it.
I'm sold.
Yeah, it is. It is so good.
You got me, man.
So
I want that.
So when people say Sheetz or Wawa, I'm like, I prefer Sheetz, but
Yeah.
Gecko is supreme. But last time I'm not in Buffalo. I was in Erie.
Right.
Erie has that chain. So yeah, Buffalo doesn't. But what they have is, because I was talking to independent wrestler Puff, because I was like, one thing that Buffalo has that I love, that Jesse loves, that we don't get everywhere. Like, they're in my area, but not nearly as much. Tim Hortons.
Oh, jeez, dude.
Oh, I love me some Tim Hortons. Oh, the Timbits are amazing.
I always think up here, because they don't know squat about good coffee or whatever here. I mean, it's Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks. That's it. And I mean, they're okay. Dunkin's okay. I'm not a Starbucks guy because it's a little strong for me, but I understand people have different tastes on that. But
yeah.
I always thought if I had the money, I would bring a Timmy Ho's franchise up here and kick everybody's ass.
Oh yeah.
Because I just think that these cats, if they got a taste of that, game over. But I could be wrong.
I think it's like it all has to do with distribution. Like it's crazy how it works in my area. The closest Tim Hortons, I think, is like there's two of them, but they're an hour-ish in opposite directions.
Oh, okay.
There's none in Cleveland, but then when you get down towards Columbus, there's a bunch. Like, it's just an ample amount. But I'm like, okay, we have them down there. We have them a couple other spots, none in Cleveland, none in Akron, none in Canton. But then, like, you get into getting closer to Pennsylvania, there's more. And I don't know if there's any in Indiana. But I'm like, where's this going? Because those trucks that go down to Columbus and go to these other places, they're driving through the area. I'd seen one pass me on my way home one day. I'm like, okay, there's a Tim Hortons truck. Why don't we have a franchise around here? Because I think it would kill too. Because there's a name brand with them that you always hear about, even if they're not in your area. So when one finally pops up, you go, oh, I need to try them out because I've always heard about this Canadian franchise. And they are so good. Oh,
yeah. I mean, I've been on a scavenger hunt of sorts to try to find wherever I could because, I was spoiled I was born and raised in Buffalo. So I came here to Jersey in 2006, but, I was there my whole life, Buffalo, and able to go up to Canada whenever I wanted and all that stuff. So, I mean, I was used to Tim Hortons, anywhere I wanted. And here, it's random where you can find them. Like there is one in New York Penn Station, which is this is how weird I am. That's a destination point for me. I haven't done this before. I usually have something to do in New York when I get there, but I could see myself taking a trip just for the Tims. I would do that. So,
like when I went down to Tennessee, I stopped at the Tim Hortons on the way down in Columbus, and I stopped at the same one on the way back.
Yeah.
And brought some Timbits back for my girlfriend because I always get Timbits. I always get an assorted pack. Like I'll get some other food too, but I'll get the assorted pack, and I always hope that I find ones that have the jelly donut Timbits.
Oh yeah.
Because those are, to me, those are the best. I'm not a huge jelly donut fan, but I feel like there's just the perfect amount of jelly for that little donut where it doesn't feel like overkill. So I had that on the way down. I actually left all my leftovers to Jesse. He's getting a lot of love on both these episodes. I hope he enjoys it.
But, I know, right?
But on the way back, I had seen how when I was there the first time, they had coffee Timbits, and that was like a new flavor. Ooh. My girlfriend loves that flavor. Like loves just everything coffee, and I picked her up like a special 10-pack and just all coffee ones because I wanted her to enjoy it because she was like, well, why don't you get assorted? I'm like, well, if I do that, like there were 7 flavors, you might get 1, you might get 2 at best. So I'm like, if I give you a whole 10-pack, you get 10. So you get to have so much fun with it.
Yeah, that's a better philosophy. Have you had the ice cap?
Yes.
Ice cappuccino? Yeah, those are bomb.
The ice cap is good, and I had it at one point, and I think the American Tim Hortons got rid of them, is they were the frozen hot chocolate.
Yeah, they got rid of them, huh?
I think they did get rid of them, and I was so sad because that's how I eased into ice caps. I think I tried the frozen hot chocolate first, and I mentioned that to a Canadian friend of mine, And he was like, well, number one, we don't have those. And number two, he's like, that sounds like an ice cap. So I'm like, okay, I'll try an ice cap next time I go. And I had that. I'm like, oh, yeah, that ice cap is really good, too. So
Yeah.
I think the time before last I had ice cap. Last time I didn't because I had enough like energy drinks and everything to go down to Tennessee. I was like, I don't need an extra thing of coffee, an extra thing to drink. I'm like, I already have enough.
Justin, you got me going now, man. I want Sheetz, I want Tony Luke's, and I want Tim's. So I got all these cravings going on. I'm like a pregnant person here.
Now, when you go down to Tennessee, you need to hit up Cookout.
Oh, I've heard a lot about Cookout, man. I gotta try that.
And my favorite spot, which I don't know if you've had this before, they're not everywhere. They're not even done in Ohio. Is a chicken place called Zaxby's.
Dude, Jesse turned me on to that.
Mm-hmm.
Zaxby's rocks, bro.
Mm-hmm. Like when
Zaxby's sauce is freaking killer.
Dude, I bring some home every time.
Oh man.
Like after I had got into town, me not to break the illusion for anybody, like me, Jesse, Brett, Koo, and Lane, we all went to Zaxby's. And I, like, every time I go now, I'm like, I get 5 extra things of Zax sauce. And they cost, I think, 5 cents a piece, or a quarter a piece.
Okay.
So, like, I was like, I don't care. Like, I'll pay the $1.25, but I'm taking some home with me. And I'm going to
really
eat it with other stuff because it's so good.
Oh, God. Yeah, that place is awesome. Jesse told me about another place called Raising Cane's.
Down.
And I found a couple on the map. I think there's a couple maybe not too far from you. Maybe in Ohio, I want to say. But I was getting ready to go to Mid-South. It was a trip that never happened. I was going to go to IWA, and then they wound up canceling the show. But I had it all planned that if I went there, I was going to hit Raising Cane's, Zaxby's at one point, and then Raising Cane's. And that way me and my friend could really kind of get a feel for what was better. But Jesse says Raising Cane's is, so...
It's a big discussion. Like before, like every time I'd go down to Columbus, that was another thing. Like I'd hit Tim Hortons up and I'd hit his Raising Cane's.
Oh, and you've had that. Okay.
Oh yeah, and then not a couple years ago. This is last year. They opened up 2 not too far from me. One is literally 10 miles away. I pulled up the directions. It's 17-minute drive. And to have one that close, it's really good. They have their own sauce. But I need to do another like taste test comparison of something that's not necessarily Raising Cane menu item, because that will really affect Raising Cane sauce. Yeah. So I need to try something like chicken tenders that I could buy at the store, or chicken nuggets, or something like that, or even like a sandwich to see which one's better. But yeah, that's another good one. Like Raising Cane's is still good. And in fact, the one's really close. It almost makes me say like, well, it makes me not miss Zaxby's as much, but it's still good. And I think Zax sauce is better than Raising Cane sauce, but I'm going to at least open myself up for a taste test.
Good call. I'll be waiting to hear what you say about that. But yeah, whoever listens to this show, man, they're gonna be hungry as fuck. I would think, man. I have the munchies. That's
the fun thing too, is I think everybody really connects on food one way or another. There's something that we all love about food, like whether it be it's like Sheetz or Wawa, or all the fast food places. Who has the best nuggets? Who has the best hamburger? It's, I don't know. We're definitely a fast food nation.
For real, we are.
So
Cookout, man. What's the go-to on that at the Cookout? What do you think I should nab when I get there?
I would say hit up Jesse, because I've had Cookout like once or twice, so I don't have a wide knowledge of their menu. I've only tried a couple things. It's almost similar to Wawa, of like not having as much experience with it, but I thought it was good. It wasn't something I would be like, nah, I wouldn't go there. But it's everybody I know raves about the many different types of shake that they have. I forget which ones I've gotten. It's been almost 4 years. I think that's the last time I went to a Cookout. Actually, when I went down to Nashville, it was like, okay, do we want to go to Zaxby's or Cookout? I'm like, I don't know, man. I really want to go to Zaxby's. I'm like, I won't complain if we go to Cookout, but
yeah,
I'm more leaning towards that, and that's what we end up settling on.
Yeah. How do you pass up a Zaxby's if you're in the area? I've never been able to do it. If I see one, no matter who we're in the car, we pump the brakes, man, or hit the turn signal or whatever to go in Zaxby's, no doubt.
Zaxby's, Tim Hortons, and then my other favorite, if I'm in the area of one, and I did do this on the trip on the way back, is a Shoney's.
Ooh, yeah, Shoney's. I've been to one. I want to go to the Scott Steiner one, man.
I wanted to go there when he first announced it, and then when he put out that video of of him riding the bulldozer and like tearing down the Shoney's and everything, I'm like, that makes me want to go even more. Like, you're just really adding to it. It seems to be like that would, not to mention, just a walk in and like, oh, this is the one that Scott Steiner owns.
Right? Where is that one, bro? Where is that again?
Somewhere in Atlanta. I don't know where off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Or like, it's at least within the vicinity of Atlanta. It might be somewhere north. I don't 100% know.
Yeah, that's a pilgrimage that has to be made, man. So at some point, I got to go there. I thought about at one point going to Jerry Lawler's joint in Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember where I was going, and it was kind of going to be a few hour detour to go through Memphis, and I just didn't wind up doing it. But I always have wanted to kind of check that out, just to say I did. Probably some cool memorabilia in there, too.
I definitely want to go to Memphis for a lot of things. That's another thing. I'm a friend of Lawler's, so I don't know if I could get a meeting with him or not, but the barbecue, like the barbecue joint sounds really good that he has too. So I really want to just have loving barbecue so much. I want to try that. I'd love to go to Graceland. There's so much to do in Memphis. Even like when I was down there in Tennessee for while I was in Nashville, I was like, well, there's like all this other stuff I want to do while I'm here. Yeah. I don't know if I'll get the chance. And even somewhere between Nashville and Knoxville, there's a Titanic museum that I really want to go to.
Wow.
So it's like there's so much to do there, but I did not have enough time.
Yeah, you got to go to Graceland. I mean, I grew up with, my father was a huge Elvis fan, so by proxy, I became one, because everywhere we were in the car or whatever, it was always, he had Elvis on. And so I became a fan. He took me there a few times when I was younger. And I mean, there was one of my students came in and did a speech on Graceland, and I was shocked because it seems that the newer generation, they just don't, I haven't heard many people ever even mention Elvis or being a fan. You know, feels kind of like the days of Elvis generating new fans might be coming to a halt a little bit, but maybe I'm wrong. I might not have my finger on the pulse of that, but this young lady was all in. She had pictures and she was all excited about it. So yeah, you got to go.
I think the thing with Elvis is there hasn't been anything new or noteworthy from Elvis. And obviously he's not going to come out with new music, but I'm like looking at something recently with like Queen and Bohemian Rhapsody. I think if they were to come out with a new Elvis movie, that could help get a younger generation in. Because
that's a good point, man.
The older any type of medium gets or any type of artist gets, that it's hard to bring people back in. Like I grew up being a huge fan of the now late great comedian Red Skelton. Not many people my age group know who the hell Red Skelton even is, but granted, I think the thing that lasts with a lot of people is his Pledge of Allegiance breakdown. But that's all that they know. And I'm like, oh, well, he was really funny. He was a great mime and comedian, and he had his own show. He was on TV for like, I think close to 20 years. I could be wrong. And he was just so much fun. But like I said, I grew up watching old VHS tapes of him, and most people that I knew had no idea who he was. And if they were to ever to re-release those TV shows or something like that, that could spark a younger generation. But it's with him, there's no hope. But I think Elvis, there's potential there, especially with the revival of a lot of these music movies.
And you're so bang on there, especially with the Queen, and I was in a McDonald's because my kids are so small, so I'm always on the lookout for the play place McDonald's if we don't have anything to do that day or whatever. That's kind of a good place to go for them, let them burn some energy. But I went in, and the girl at the counter, and she was a really young lady, I mean maybe 18, and she was just clapping along, singing Radio Gaga. And I said, come on, how do you know Radio Gaga? You know, and I didn't think fast enough on my feet that, oh, the movie, right? And so she was singing the lyrics, you know, real clear. And then I had a student in class talk about how the Live Aid with Freddie up there just capturing the, you know, it was magic, right? Yeah. And I'm like, that was one of the performances of all time. I mean, that's really awesome to hear you talk about that, because I know it was before you were born, but wow, that's awesome that you know it. And you nailed it. I mean, yeah, if there was to be an Elvis movie or something back out, that would change the game there. You're right.
And I would say, too, it would have to be another Elvis movie, because I think there was one.
Yeah.
With Russell Crowe, I want to say.
Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell, yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Kurt Russell. I was close.
Yeah, you were.
Kind of had the name. So yeah, that would, I think, breathe a lot of light. And even too, like growing up when I did, a lot of people don't really have much idea who like Buddy Holly or Richie Valens is.
True.
But maybe they grew up watching La Bamba.
Yep.
Or maybe they heard the Weezer song Buddy Holly, because that's actually one thing I've asked people. I'm like, when I say Buddy Holly, what do you think of the singer or the Weezer song? Me, I grew up listening to Buddy Holly because my dad was he was born in 1950, so I grew up listening to Elvis, Johnny Cash, Buddy Holly, a plethora of other older artists. Yeah. So I had a little bit of appreciation for them. Richie Valens too, but I think I got really introduced to him with the movie. And then my dad was like, "Oh yeah, well there's this music." Like, I don't think he listened to it as much, but he's like, "Yeah, there's this too," and I became really into it. Luckily with him, he didn't have a large career, so I think he had like 3 singles and a bunch of other songs that were recorded, but nothing much was else done with it. So like,
that's true.
You can catch his whole catalog really easy because, like I said, there really wasn't a lot. Yeah, it's really cool to like see stuff like that, and if you have any type of appreciation for something like that old, and the movie scene is really helping. Like they're doing I think it's supposed to come out this year, the Elton John movie that could reestablish his career more, because he's faded out in the past 10, 15 years. Like he's known for a lot of his older hits, but his story's just not known.
Yeah, it's awesome. And just when you think that you can get a finger on what the new generation is up to. I mean, I keep referring to my students, but I learn so much from them because as I keep getting older, they're the same age. So it's cool because I get to keep my finger at least in somewhat on the pulse of pop culture and things through them. And they were saying how, we don't really watch TV as much anymore, and I even heard that on the Franchise Shane Douglas podcast. He was talking about how his sons don't even watch TV. It's such a different time. We're moving out of that. It's into the periphery of our society is the television and stuff, and so many of these mediums that used to be so popular were changing now.
Yeah, like I think what I grew up with growing up was, Friday night, TGIF on ABC. Like,
me too, man. Yeah,
we would watch it at home, like with my parents, and then there's sometimes like I would spend weekends with my grandparents, like they would watch it too, and it was something that everybody gathered around, and like slowly but surely that's kind of faded away. And even too, it was like before VCRs, or even when everybody was doing it, but if you weren't home for a TV show, it's like, well, like, oops, that was it.
Yeah.
No other way to watch it. You have to.
Yeah, it was destination. So many shows were destination television.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you had to see it. And yeah, TGIF, man, I'm so glad you mentioned it. I used to look so forward to that, man. I mean, You had Full House, and now I'm drawing a blank on what the name of the show was with Urkel.
Family Matters.
Yeah, it was just it was awesome. I mean, Friday night was magic anyway, but that made it even sweeter.
Yeah, like those shows, Step by Step, Perfect Strangers.
Yeah. Perfect Strangers, yeah.
I think Boy Meets World got wiggled in there a little bit. Sabrina the Teenage Witch. For most part, they at least had 1 or 2 hits on at a time.
Yep.
I don't know if it's close to a decade or what, but it seemed to like last forever. And that was the thing. Even too, like let's go back to when we were growing up. Saturday morning cartoons that ended like about 5-6 years ago, I think. Like they finally ended the tradition of Saturday morning cartoons.
Huh.
And like we grew up one way or another watching a lot of these shows that were a big deal. I mean, granted, some of it was just trying to sell toys or anything like that, like Transformers, G.I. Joes, and all that kind of stuff. But it's something.
He-Man.
Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, right, exactly. And in fact, I have this one tape that I say tape again. I'm aging myself. It's an old VHS I have, but I still play it for my communication students because there's a professor on there saying how the way you evaluate TV programs is how well they can be transformed into merchandise. And there it is. I mean, you're right. So many of those Saturday shows and whatnot were created with that in mind. I mean, they were shows, but that was just the appetizer, for the what they became. And just everybody had backpacks and lunch boxes and all that. And Hulk Hogan, I had all that stuff too. The WWF with Hogan and Jimmy Snuka and Hillbilly Jim and whatever you name. I had the backpacks and blankets and all that, so geez, how much money, how much cash were they bringing in on stuff like that? Because they really had young people like me. They had us hook, line, and sinker, and we wanted all that stuff. So our parents were going to go buy it, So
especially the 80s. I mean, it feels like everything was turned into merchandising, whether, it's stuff that we've mentioned, it was also like My Little Ponies and all that, to where it seemed like everything had a cartoon, and it had like the merchandise that went with it. And then too, always the thing that I thought was crazy about the 80s, maybe a little bit of the early 90s, how rated R movies would turn into cartoons.
Yeah.
Or turn into figures, should say. No, the rated R movies would turn into figures and toys, but then like every movie, whether it be meant for kids or at least teenage, not a lot of the adult stuff would be turned into cartoons.
Yeah.
Real Ghostbusters, Back to the Future, Bill and Ted, all the they have these additional adventures on like cartoon, but even Beetlejuice, like all of this stuff, and now like that, I feel like it doesn't happen as much. Like maybe a lot more of the kids stuff, but nowhere near on that level. And even like I said, like a lot of the toys too. You had toys for Aliens and toys for Terminator. Like as a kid, I thought that was really cool, but like looking back, it's like, wow, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. No, you're right. That's a great point. And now, of course, you can get, if you're a collector, I mean, and you're a pop culture collector, there's so many ways and avenues to spend your money. I can, walking into an FYE or something like that is just probably a place for a collector where you have to get your credit card out and ready because you're going to wind up seeing something you like. I think Jesse collects pop. Do you collect pops or just certain ones? Like I know you have some of the wrestling ones and stuff like that. I think I've heard you mention on your show some that you have.
I'm picky. I want it to be things that I'm a fan of. Like right now, I'm looking at. I have a Scarface pop because I'm a huge fan of the movie Scarface.
Cool.
Oddly enough, not necessarily right next to it, but really close to it is a Mr. Rogers pop. A complete 180 of each other.
That's awesome.
I got the pops from the movie Tommy Boy, one of my favorite movies. I know.
Sweet. I didn't even know they had Pops for that.
Oh yeah, they have 2 versions of Tommy and 1 Richard.
Wow.
And one of the Tommies was a Target exclusive. And
that's crazy.
Yeah, I was able to get my hands on that one. I was really happy. But like Ghostbusters, I have like the only Ninja Turtles ones I have. There's 2 versions of Shredder that I have because I'm a huge fan of his. But I try to do like that. I'm not really a Star Wars fan, but if I was, I would hate it because I know that's like one of the biggest. I think at this point it's one of the biggest toy lines ever.
Oh,
like, not just Pops, but Pops add a huge chunk of it. They're coming out with like new Star Wars Pops every year, probably multiple times a year, and then everything else going on. It's like, oh, there's a new movie coming out. Well, we're going to have more toys. We're going to have more Legos. We're going to have more this. We're going to have more that. And it's if you were into that, I mean, praise be to you. But I know there's you're never going to have the whole set, and I think that's what really sucks.
Yeah, that's true. And for an OCD type A person like me, I could never handle that. If I start collecting something, I want to have the whole collection. So it's hard for me. I think maybe that's why I never really became. I'm not much of a Star Wars guy either. And I think that even if I was, I think they would have lost me recently here. And by recently, I mean whatever the last decade or whatever. I mean, certainly growing up in the 80s, I mean, the trilogy there, the Star Wars and The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. I mean, of course, I saw those and loved them and everything like that. But I think after that, I don't know. I think they sort of lost me. So, yeah, I'm not a Star Wars fan either. Never was.
Before we wrap this up, I want to get like a really good focus on you and your podcast, because a lot of people might not know about you and everything. Like, when did you join podcasting? Like, what was your calling for it, and like, what made you become a podcaster?
Good question. I think it was because, well, actually, I really do. All the way back to my childhood. I mean, I was fascinated with the way your voice could be transmitted, and in that time, we're talking just microphones and amplifiers. And my father used to take me to the Buffalo Memorial Auditorium when I was a kid. And I would, at these house shows, and I would stand there and I had a little portable tape recorder and I would tape record over it, the commentary. I would do commentary, and I would always mimic Vince McMahon because that's who I knew at the time. So here I am shouting, "Oh my!" and all this stuff, and people were staring at me the whole time. And I remember when I showed my dad, and my father recently passed away. I'm really happy he got a chance to hear my podcast because he heard it and he said to me, "Wow, Jeremy, this is kind of full circle from when you were a kid. You used to do this kind of thing." So I think that might be where it led to, where all that came from. But I didn't even know much about podcasting until, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I discovered this podcast called Yakuza Kick Radio with now my buddy J. Cat Morris, CZW. He's really a Combat Zone wrestling historian, really, at this point. I mean, he was there from almost the inception to a few years ago. He used to go religiously, and I discovered his show, just went crazy for it, and he really introduced me to a lot of the indies, because I mean, you can't really count ECW as an indie, and I was a passionate, hardcore ECW fan. I used to travel on the road with them the weekends and stuff, and I was at the arena. I would drive to the arena from Buffalo a lot, and of course Buffalo was a hot ECW town as well. But when they went out of business, I was so heartbroken that I kind of didn't really watch wrestling for a long time, and it really wasn't until maybe 2008 or so that I started getting back into it around here, because there's so many indie shows and whatnot here. But yeah, I definitely think it was finding his podcast, and then from his, I branched off and started checking out many other ones. So then I started having this web of podcasts, and I was talking to so many of my friends, and of course, I would have these strong opinions on things, and I finally heard enough people say to me, you should have a podcast, man. Some of your viewpoints are cool. I think people would like to hear them. And I heard that a bunch, and I just decided to try it. At first it was maybe February or March last year. Really, it's not that old of a podcast, but I started with my friend Eric Williams, and he would run the recording and all that for me, but we had such a hard time figuring out what times we could record. For me, it's always when I get the kids to bed, I can record. And when you have a co-host, you have to match that up. And it became so hard to do because his times were way off from mine. So I just learned Audacity and all that myself. And I just went at it myself because it's easier for me. I can just record whenever I have a moment, so.
It's definitely one of the struggles of having a podcast that's not just you.
Yeah.
It's something that I know all so well of doing just many different podcasts through the years before, committing myself to this one, even having other people on. Like, luckily, when we do the previews and reviews, like, I have kind of a stable of people, and I'm able to say, hey, who can give me what two people can do this episode? And sometimes I'll be able to plan it ahead of who's all going to be on, who's not going to be on. But I'll have those times where it's I'm not saying like pulling teeth, but it's harder. And that's why I like having these interviews, because as of right now, like, I'm recording this episode a week and a half before it's going to get posted.
Exactly.
So I'll have time to edit it and, have it ready to where it's less stress. Even, last week's episode of when this gets released, like, I just worked on it bit by bit, and I recorded it two nights before I left for Sup. So it's something that I knew, like, okay, I'll have this ready. And the episode that I released the week after that, as of this recording, it's such a time loop, but as of this recording, it was last week's episode. Like, that one, I had that ready up before I went down the Sup. It's like giving myself a little bit of breather room, and it's something that, like I said, when you're working with other people, it's so much harder. But it's also the benefit of, like, less stress is on you, and it's like two people like having a conversation. It's not like, okay, I'm one person, I'm going to have to talk for a half an hour to an hour. Instead, if it's two people, it's like, okay, well, that half an hour to an hour, that means I have to talk from anywhere from 15 minutes to a half hour, just me, but I can have conversation and all this kind of stuff. So it takes some stress off. And, I tip my hat to you, and I've done it myself, and I know other people know it's really difficult to stand in front of a microphone or sit in front of a microphone, whatever you do, and talk into it, and you're getting no response. Some people, it is so intimidating, and I get it. It is. But at the end of the day, if it's like talking to someone else, it's just maybe they have less to say. So you could go on with the conversation however you feel.
Right. Exactly, man. And that's kind of the good part about it, the freedom of being able to do that. And I guess, I was a communication student in college, and I teach communication now. So I like to think I have that sense about me too. I always felt that I lacked the radio voice to be an on-air disc jockey or something like that. There's guys that have really golden tones. I think you have great voice for radio too. Ryan from the Spotlight series, the dude really sounds golden, right? And I never really had that, but I feel like I have the sensibility and what it takes to, like you said, carry that. It can be a bit difficult, and sometimes people, I guess, maybe that would seem strange, just to carry something on all by yourself. And I was talking to Dylan Hales, and we were talking about Joey Styles and how he marveled at how Joey used to be able to do the shows all by himself, So I guess any of that is tough, carrying something all by yourself and making it entertaining in any way possible, So
I do thank you for the compliment, but I'm much human like everybody else. And it's not that I can't stand my voice. It's, I don't think my voice is that good.
Yeah.
But I think it was a couple of years ago that Nasty Russ was doing someone else's podcast, a friend of mine, Andy from The Road Home from Wrestling. And
okay.
Nasty Russ, he was like, oh yeah, like he has a really great voice. And I'm like, man, thank you, but I don't see it, but I thank you for the compliment, because obviously it was unprovoked. You didn't have to say that, but that was your initial reaction. So, hey,
yeah,
I don't know.
Oh yeah, yeah. You definitely have that sound, man. You could be on the radio. You could be on air any which way you wanted to with that voice for sure. But you always know somebody when they have it. I mean,
yeah.
I worked in radio. I worked as a promotion director, and one of the things that I really set up was our afternoon drive time show. So I worked pretty closely with the on-air guy, and you just hear them, and just even in regular conversation, I mean, they have that satin, golden voice, and it just makes you enjoy. I used to catch myself really enjoying just listening to him talk whenever we'd sit down in a room or something. I think Dylan Hales is like that. And Dylan Hales' voice to me sounds like that. Like you could easily hear him on different mediums that way. So maybe that's what lends itself. It lends itself to being a really good wrestling commentator as well.
I think with me, like I almost got into radio. My only issue was everybody that I knew that went into broadcasting school, none of them had a job in the field.
Yep.
And people that I knew were in the field, I had heard for years, they were just like, don't go to school for this. Like, if you think you're going to be on the radio instantly, because you probably won't, you're going to have to pay dues. And to get even the opportunity to pay dues is so difficult. And I was just like, you know what? I'll just take this thing that I do as a hobby and leave it as a hobby. I'll do it amateur style for here on out. I'll do my best to get better. And I'll see how thing goes. And I agree with you when it comes to Dylan. Dylan is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
It's hard to pick between him and there's a commentator that's used to be Cleveland, but he switches back and forth between Cleveland and Pittsburgh. His name is Joe Dombrowski.
Mm-hmm.
He did play-by-play for Prime Wrestling and PWO.
Okay.
Him and he went by Aaron McGuire in Prime Wrestling PWO. Like, that was the color commentary guy. Those two had the chemistry of Bobby Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon, but it's not like we're trying to be Bobby Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon. They had the natural personalities that paid homage, I would say, to those two legendary commentators, to where there was I'll just say it was a bad match, like two not really great wrestlers wrestling this one match, but the commentary on it was so good that it made it entertaining. And I was at the show that the match was at, so I didn't hear the commentary, and I'm like, oh, this match sucks. But when I watched it when it premiered on TV, I'm like, oh my God, like Aaron and Joe are making this so much fun to watch. And Joe, he does a lot for like IWC in Pittsburgh and Premier Championship Wrestling here in Cleveland, but also he gets to dabble a little bit of work with ROH from time to time. I don't know exactly what it is that he does, but he's really good. And when I'm asked, like, who's your favorite play-by-play guy or commentary guy, I'm like, it's between those two. And the thing that I'll give Dylan a lot of compliment for, like, he's great alone, and I really do love with him and Jesse. And even on top of that, with Jesse he's a great ring announcer, to where like this, like he's killing it and he doesn't even know it.
I've told him I love that. I love the punk rock voice that he puts on when he's in the ring, because it's just not something that's done, much, or at least not that I've heard. So it's fresh. It really brings an excitement and an enthusiasm to the matches. Yeah, I mean, Jesse would hate to admit it. He's so humble.
Yeah.
But man, Jesse's really good at every fucking thing he does with wrestling, man. I mean, he's really been good at it. I I was listening to Kick Out at 2 when they first started, and I got really into that. And, the show, it was, once in a while they would have really cool guests on and stuff, but a lot of times it was just him and Wilkman and Brittany kind of rapping about whatever. And it always kept my attention. I listened every week, and I think it's in part because Jesse's so damn good. So, and he's a damn good ring announcer. He's a credible wrestler. And granted, Jesse, what I know him most for is getting his ass kicked, with Brett and Tank whipped his ass, but that's okay. Jesse will get in there and mix it up. So he's good at everything, and he's great on commentary too. I've heard a couple one-liners that he's had that I thought were just great. Mm-hmm. And I text him right away immediately and say, "Oh, Jesse, I just heard you say this. I was laughing my ass off," or whatever. So I'm sure he doesn't quite understand where all the love is coming from, because he doesn't want to give himself enough credit. But he's very good, and sky's the limit for Southern Underground Pro, man. It's shooting off right now. It's getting ready to explode.
All right, let's start to wrap this show up, and we'll get into our Fave 5 questions.
Sweet.
Hey, this is Booker T, 5-time champ, and this is the Fave 5 questions. Now, can you dig it?
All right, and we'll start with question number 1. Addams Family or the Munsters?
Ooh. I was a Munsters guy, man, because I don't know. Growing up, I was a Universal Monsters mark, and anything that resembled the traditional Frankenstein monster and all that I got into. And I guess I just gravitated towards Herman Munster. I would say that I always was into that. Addams Family I thought was cool, but the Munsters, I guess, was what I discovered first off. But the Herman Munster character, I liked. I thought just the caricature of the monster, I was into that no matter what it really was when I was that age.
I feel like Addams Family and Munsters is probably the most divided question among people, but it's like it's the one thing that people wouldn't start a fight over. Like, how dare you say that about the Munsters? Addams Family was the greatest ever. Like, no, everybody's like, oh, well, like, I preferred the Munsters, or I prefer the Addams Family, and everybody's happy.
Yeah, true, man. Yeah, I've heard you drop that question on several of the shows, and it always is. You're right. You never know what the answer is going to be, but yeah, it's really not something to get hot over. Some things maybe, but not that.
All right, question number 2: wings, bone in or out?
Ooh. Well, I'm a Buffalo dude, so I got to go bone in, man. I don't know. For any of your listeners, if this is one thing people don't get. Now, of course, the Buffalo, the term Buffalo Wings has become big, and the Buffalo Wild Wings are popping up and whatever. But where I'm from, it would be straight up blasphemy to go into a Buffalo Wild Wings. It would be sort of the same thing as going in a Subway in South Philadelphia and ordering a cheesesteak. Subway, the franchise.
Yeah. Going
in there and ordering a cheesesteak, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're in South Philly. You can go to Tony Luke's or wherever you want. Just like in Buffalo, you can go to Anchor Bar or Duff's or something and get the bone in. So I don't know. I guess I've had some boneless wings for sure, and I'm a sauce fan. So if you sauce it up right, I definitely get into it, no doubt. But I got to be a purist on that one and say bone in.
I think I said this with O'Shea, so that'll be in next week's episode, that I think this question is more, who is going to be the one person to give a definitive reason why they think bone out is better?
Huh.
Because everybody is mostly bone in. I'm waiting for the one person like, no, I prefer bone out, and this is why. But everybody seems to
My
stick.
wife would. If I had her on, she would say, because she wouldn't even touch bone-in wings. she only likes boneless. So,
All right. Question number 3: Pepsi or Coke?
ooh, I quit soda, but
Mhm.
I got to go Coke because, I mean, back in the day, I was a Diet Coke nut and then Coke Zero. And now the game changer, if I still was drinking Coke, would be all those cool flavors they're coming out with, the mango and the feisty cherry and all that shit. Those are pretty badass sounding. So, yeah, I always like Coke. I like Coke products. Is your area, here's a question though. I mean, where I'm from, that's pop. You know, you got a pop, I'll have that pop. How about in Ohio? Do they use the term pop or soda?
Oh, as far as I understand, we're a pop state.
Oh, okay. You are. Okay.
Like, I don't know anybody that's from here that doesn't say pop. Normally it's when you go elsewhere. And I've had this conversation with people from Pennsylvania, and I guess somewhere in the middle of Pennsylvania, there's like a line where if you're east of it, you're saying pop. If you're west of it, you're saying soda. Or no, you're west of it, you're saying, west of it, you're saying pop. East of it, you're saying soda. So
isn't that cool how the lexicon, it changes. It just changes because of geography. That's so bizarre. Something so small like that, the pop or soda.
And then if you're down south, it's
Coke, right?
Yeah,
everything's Coke.
Everything's Coke. And I've actually talked to people from other countries, and they've told me their version. And then because I've had fun when people go like, "Well, it's pop, not soda," and all this stuff. I'm like, well, there's these other countries that say this too. I mean, it's just where you're coming from. I mean, as long as we learn just to understand, like, if I say pop, know what I mean. If you say soda, I'm going to know what you mean too. Like, just learn the translation.
Yeah. Good stuff. But yeah, Coke, I mean, definitely on my answer, to go back to it. I mean, yeah, Coke. I always gravitated to the Coke products. Although I will say the Pepsi and the big glass bottles, my mom, I remember when I was a kid, my mother was such a mark for those, the long glass bottles, and she would always have them, the Pepsi. So, but I feel like Coke has passed them.
I think the Coke glass bottles are the best. And now, like, not only can you get regular Coke, you can get Mexican Coke.
Wow.
Which is made a little bit different. There's a peach Coke that comes in a glass bottle, and there's another flavored Coke, raspberry Coke, that you can get in a glass bottle. And that's the only one that they sell those in. And they're pretty good.
Ooh, that sounds good. Especially the peach. That sounds really good.
Mm-hmm. Question number 4. Let's go with a classic. Bacon or sausage?
Ooh. Oh, man, that is a toughie. I could throw in a curve and say, choice C, not listed there. Scrapple. I'm a Scrapple mark. But out of the two you listed, I would probably have to go bacon because, although I'm not a really crispy bacon guy,
okay,
I like it a little bit gummy, I guess. I am strange on textures, so that does matter to me. But yeah, I got to go bacon.
So you would say you were, I put it down as not crispy. That's the only way I could really describe it, that everybody understands.
Yeah, right,
okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and the sausage, I don't know. It just doesn't, bacon is a bit more exciting, to me. Like, I got bacon, and bacon is so versatile, and people love it on everything, and, they even started making the chocolate-covered bacon and all that. Sausage doesn't seem quite as versatile, but I don't know. And I've never been excited to get a sausage patty,
I could see that. Like, bacon is more versatile, but like for me, when it comes to like breakfast food, I love me a plate of sausage links. Or
yeah, okay.
I love going, if I go to a fast food restaurant for breakfast, the sausage, egg, and cheese McGriddle, or if I go to Burger King, sausage, egg, and cheese croissant. For me, that provides a better taste for a sandwich. Like if that's the main meat. Now, if it's a burger, like I wouldn't necessarily get a sausage burger put on top of it, but adding bacon on it, like that's always, like it as a condiment, it's great. But of the two, I really love meats. Like I said, some sausage.
Yeah, that's a fair point. But yeah, my favorite out of the two isn't even one of them. It'd be Scrapple, and Scrapple is kind of more of a Philadelphia thing, but it's a pork product. I discovered it through ECW, because ECW I started really falling in love with Philly, and then I even lived in Philly for a little while, and I kind of got to know a little bit about the culture and the cuisine and stuff. And Scrapple is something that even here in Jersey, they only have it in South Philly. Like if you go to diners in South Philly that aren't too far from Philly, or rather diners in South Jersey that aren't too far from Philly, then you get Scrapple. But you can't get it, say, where I live on the Jersey Shore. Mm-hmm. They really don't have Scrapple here. So,
all right, question number 5. And it is the Wilkman question from Kick Out at 2. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Ooh. Yeah. I've been here. Now, that's one it seems like people get a little fired up about.
Yeah. It's the opposite of the Munsters in Addams Family, because that's the one that people get worked up on.
Right. I would have to say that it is, man. I don't know. When I think about it, and it's the only way I can answer the question is, when I think about it, I always think of scenes with the Christmas music playing, or, you know, Carl Winslow kind of saying something about Merry Christmas or whatever. I think about those things. So I definitely hear the argument that says, no, the fact that it was Christmas is just a sub story there, but subtext, but it's really not the main issue, you know. But I hear that, I can see that, but I don't know. To me, it resonates that it's Christmas, you know, and all this stuff is going on at Christmas. Bruce Willis is the Christmas hero, you know. He's saving something at Christmas time. So I would always have to say, to me, it is a Christmas movie.
What is your favorite Christmas movie?
Oh, A Christmas Story. No doubt about that. I mean, I heard somebody recently saying, "Oh, I hate A Christmas Story," and I have to question the American. You know, I have to go Donald Trump on somebody's ass and wonder if they're really American or if they're illegally here or something at that point, because I'm not so sure how you can not like A Christmas Story, or at least recognize its place in Americana, you know. But yeah, no question about it. That is, I would love to go visit the house, right? They have that. You can go visit the Christmas Story house
in Cleveland.
Yeah. I mean, I got to do it.
What I've explained to people before, it's fun to go in the winter, but understand it's going to be more popular around that time, especially, you know, Christmas time.
True.
But if you go in the summer months, it's less popular, but you're not getting the same aesthetic, it being Christmas, or maybe even there's snow on the ground.
Good call.
But when I went in the summer, there was less of a crowd, so it was I could enjoy it a little bit more. There's a really big gift shop across the street. There's an old house across the street too, right next to the gift shop, that is a museum for like other things from the movie, and like they have one of the chalkboards from the classroom is in one of the rooms there, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff. So it's more than just the house, but it's still so much fun to go to, and it's one of the reasons why every Christmas I have to sit down and watch it at least once.
Yeah, I mean it's a must, really. So definitely that one hands down. I mean, Elf is getting up there. Mostly because for me, my son, I have 3 sons. I have 2 children I'm married twice from my first marriage, and then I have a 3 and a 5-year-old now. But my 15-year-old, when he was a boy, I mean, he used to just cackle watching that movie. And so watching it always brings me memories, more so of him enjoying it so much. So that one's probably creeping up there. But yeah, Christmas Story will never be replaced. I mean, everything from the movie's just so Americana. I mean, everything with them. I think the scenes that stick out most in my head are them sort of huddling around the radio, and how he liked he loved Little Orphan Annie, and he did the write-in thing and send in so he could get the decoder and whatnot. I mean, my mother used to call me Ralphie. I was like that, even though there was no more gathering around the radio, but you could still get these cassette tapes of old-time radio shows, and I used to get those in mass because I loved listening to them. Inner Sanctum and the original War of the Worlds and The Shadow and the Green Hornet and whatnot, and I used to play them. So my mother always called me Ralphie, and I have blue eyes, so I guess I looked kind of like Ralphie when I was a kid.
All right, and question number 6 that I tailor around the guest is, since you are a teacher, what from teaching has really impacted and affected your life the most?
From teaching, it's the reason why I got into it, and it still is to this day, is the impression that you can make as a teacher, just that kind of that ability to make somebody fall in love with the discipline, what you're teaching. And I remember recognizing that when I was a student, just recognizing it in my teachers and thinking, wow, it's amazing how they breathe life into these things. And all of a sudden, just a class you take becomes this amazing discipline that, it becomes sort of beautiful to you. And now the opposite way, I teach it, I see the same thing. I see students sometimes come into the class with that idea that, this is 3 credits, I need it or whatever, so what the heck. And then if you can make them fall in love with it, I think that to me is the most impactful thing. And what makes me want to keep doing it, it always has been my dream job, and I'll never leave it because it's magical to me to be able to make people love a discipline. And then you kind of stand by the side of them. I might be the teacher, but by the end, if I can get it where the students are sort of admiring this discipline alongside of me, because I'm not the guru of communication, study, or whatever. Somebody else is. But if we can admire that together, boom, mission accomplished. I was able to all of a sudden make people love it. That's cool. And that's kind of what you hope for. And those moments, man, they're so cool when they happen that I think just every new time it happens is always brand new and just as exciting. It never gets old.
All right, man. It's been a very long night. And it's been fun to have you on. And it was fun to be on your podcast, too. But any final thoughts or last-minute plugs before we go?
Well, just, I'm totally humbled by anybody that listens to I Got Your 5 Stars. And I do want to say one quick thing. That name, I came up with that name as kind of a rib on the Meltzer or whatever, the star ratings. Mm-hmm. I came up with it as you've seen the Italian, I got your so-and-so when they grab their junk, Yeah. So that's kind of the tone that I'm saying it in. I got your 5 stars right here, and I heard somebody on another podcast, and they didn't say my show right out, but I knew they were talking about me. And he said, these people that do the star ratings and stuff, 5 stars and whatnot. And I thought, yeah, but he made up his opinion and probably never listened because I don't do star ratings. I don't believe in it, mm-hmm. So I might review shows, but I don't like that. I just made it as a rib. But anyway, I'm humbled by anybody that listens because, hey, I do the podcast just because I get a kick out of it. I dig it if people like it, but if they don't, I understand that too because, like you said, a lot of weeks, it's hard to keep things interesting with just one voice on there. And that may not be some people's cup of tea, sit there and listen to a guy talk about wrestling. But for those that do, I think it's cool. If you dig my passion for it, that's cool. I love these young men and women coming up in the business. And that's kind of what what the podcast is all about. Just trying to show people, demonstrate for people my love for what these guys and girls are doing on the indies, and then if I can have them on, and people, hey, if people listen and they wind up checking out a match, mission accomplished. One person does, cool. I mean, I don't really care about number of listeners. It's if I can make some new fans of Sage Phillips or Brett Eisen or Kobe Durst or, people I have on that people this way may not know,
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully by the end they do know them. So, yeah, tune in, check the show out. I got your 5 stars. We're on iTunes, Stitcher. There's a few other ones, but I got to say I got lazy about doing the application process. But I have discovered the show on a couple of podcast venues I didn't realize. Player.fm.
Mm-hmm.
I was on and I saw my podcast on there, and I thought I never did any application process with them, but I guess it's cool. There was a couple others, but mostly Stitcher and iTunes or Apple Music or Apple Podcast, rather. I mean, is the best way. But I should also say the podcast is dedicated to my good friend, my brother, rest in peace, Kevin Whackpacker Hogan.
Mm-hmm.
The best wrestling fan ever to walk the earth. And he's in the CZW Hall of Fame. So he's on the logo of the show. That logo isn't me. For some people might look at it and go, oh, that must be the host. No, that's Whackpacker Kevin Hogan pointing up in the sky to I got your 5 stars. So it's for him. So, always be in my heart, Kevin will. But Justin, man, thanks for having me on. This has been awesome. And I loved having you on, and this is great, man. Great conversation on both ends.
Like I said, thank you very much for coming on. And, of course, you can find this show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Pretty much like you can find myself at Heavyset330, but you can find this show at Facebook.com/WrestlingCheers, Twitter.com/WrestlingCheers, and Instagram.com/WrestlingCheers. Email, if you so choose to desire, WrestlingCheers@gmail.com. And we have the merch store over at whatamaneuver.net. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you're listening to this fine podcast, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or Podbean, WrestlingCheers.podbean.com. Check out our friends on the Trending Topics Network, such as All Beer Inside, Eurovision Showcase, Old School at the Movies, and Wrestling with Altitude. Check out our other podcasting friends, such as Pod Van Dam, Super Fantastic Podcast, The Road Home from Wrestling, Kick Out at 2, The IndieCast, Sobros Network, Big Gold Belt Podcast, Spotlight Series, and I Got Your 5 Stars. And check out our other non-podcasting friends, such as Thrift Store Jobber, The Savage Stash, Set Tab Photo, PowerSlam.tv. Use promo code WrestlingCheers, all one word, and get your first month free. Ringside Shots Photography, Sickening Pictures, WrestleVoid, Stay Tough, Midwest Territory, and the official graphic designer of Wrestling Cheers, Moy Boy Designs. That will do it for us here on Wrestling Cheers, where everybody knows your name, even if you don't think wrestling is an art. Later.
Making your way in the world today takes everything you got. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot. Would you like to get away? Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name.